Everybody, welcome back to Tar Heel Illustrated. This is three things from North Carolina's 85-72 loss to Auburn in the semifinals of the Maui Invitational at the Lahaina Civic Center in Maui, Hawaii, the islands. The Tar Heels have been over there for almost a week now, and they are now 2-1 on the trip, 1-1 in the Maui Invitational, beating Dayton Monday, losing to the fourth-ranked team in the country Tuesday night, and the Tar Heels never led. This was a very clear game of one team being better than the other, but I do think the Tar Heels contributed a lot to that because, as Hubert Davis said after the game, they played out of character. They did some things that made their task even more difficult, and I'm going to hit on those things as my three things from Carolina's loss to Auburn. And by the way, so in case some of you don't know, I'm obviously not in Hawaii. I'm stateside, or mainland side, rather. I was in Boston this past weekend, Chestnut Hill for the football game. I'm here covering NC State week. And obviously it was a good choice given the fact that there was such huge news with the Carolina football program and Mac Brown. So I've been grinding it through on that. We do have a stringer out in Maui. Mark Crowder has been supplying us with some good stuff out there. So here are the three things from Carolina's loss to Auburn. The first one are the slow starts. This has become a significant issue among several. And it wasn't just tonight. Carolina started out trailing 21-6 tonight. In the second half, Auburn opens the half with a 12-2 spurt. This has been an issue. Dayton had a spurt the other night in order to open that game up to 21 points. But let's go back to the opener. Elon, 19-17. Carolina did not play well out of the gate. American University, the Tar Heels ended up winning by 52, but they trailed 18-13. They just weren't ready to go. They trailed by 20 late in the first half at Kansas. They didn't have that kind of deficit in the first half against Dayton, but it was still a huge deficit. And it was 21 points with 17 and a half minutes left in that game. So 3 of the last 5 games, they've trailed by at least 19 points. And in those games, they're getting off to tough starts. They opened up 7-2 at Kansas, and then Kansas slowly kind of built that big margin. Slowly, because it was about 19-18, about midway through the first half, almost midway through the first half, and then the Jayhawks just blew the doors out of the Tar Heels for about 10 or 12 minutes. Carolina obviously came back, took the lead, and then lost the game. They came back and beat Dayton. They could not come back against Auburn. The closest they got it in the second half was to 9 points after a crazy three-pointer by Seth Trimble, and that was pretty much it. Tar Heels just couldn't do what was necessary to get the thing any closer. So they've been digging themselves holes, and this time they couldn't get out of it. And last night in the three things, I asked the question, how many times can Hubert Davis do one of his non-cussing, paint-peeling speeches at halftime before they wear off or before it doesn't work? You can only go to that well so many times, and he'd already had to do it a few times this month. It didn't work Tuesday night. Kids had heard it before, it didn't work. And the Tar Heels built themselves in a deficit that they just simply couldn't overcome, and there are reasons why they didn't overcome it, which I'm going to get on here right now. In the second thing of our three things, the offensive approach was questionable in this game. Now, in football, there are a lot of RPOs, or you just see a called play. For example, the 4th and 2 against Boston College when Jacoby Criswell rolls to his right instead of giving the ball to Marion, that's an easy thing to pick and criticize. Sometimes you don't know what's called or if anything's called from the sideline in basketball because of the decisions that kids make, these snap decisions they make. But what we saw a lot of Tuesday night, and what we saw way too much of Tuesday night, were the Tar Heel guards just pounding that thing on the floor and getting into the lane. I called it dribble, dribble, drive, fall. That's what we saw. dribble, 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 drive, fall to the floor, flail out of bounds, loft something up and hope it goes in, because they're not getting a lot of offensive putbacks right now. And there's not an Armando cleaning that stuff up. So they got to make better decisions when they get that stuff up off the glass and try to score. This is something they were doing well before, early in the year, but the last two nights, not very good. They did have some success, obviously, coming back against Dayton, but they built themselves a big hole by playing ragtag basketball on offense. And it goes to the three-point shots. And there's some things I can connect here, some dots I can connect for you. Of 62 shots against Auburn, only 16 of them were three-pointers, which is, 25, 26%, whatever the percentage is. It's not a good percentage. They should shoot more, because when you are a team that lacks what this team lacks inside, and we didn't know what it would lack inside, I think right now it's fair to say they've probably been a little bit worse in some respects than a lot of people even feared. They have not played to the level I thought that they would play, but it's still very early, and there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of learning for a Jalen Washington. There's a lot of assimilating for a Van Allen Lubin. Jalen Withers is kind of what Jalen Withers is. If he has a guy in there that's able to do stuff, I think it grows his game. I think his strengths are accentuated. If he has to do too much, I don't think his strengths are accentuated. So with the three-pointers, the Tar Heels had a stretch in the second half tonight from around the 10.5-minute mark to the 4.5-minute mark, where they did not attempt a three-pointer. This is in the second half when they're trailing in that range of about 11 to 15 points. I know it got a little higher, and it was during that period. Actually got under 10 one time late in the second half, and that was with 3:17 left, so that's outside of this window. RJ hit a three with around 10.5 minutes left in the game. Seth hit one with around 4.5 minutes left in the game. In between, a club that is trailing by 11, 12, 13, 14 points attempted no threes. None. But they're driving into the lane. They're trying to shoot over bigs. The guards are falling to the floor. It looked like there was no plan. And if Hubert called something from the sideline to sort of get them set and run some stuff and set some good screens and come off some good screens and try to be connected and find one another, we didn't really see much of that. And that was a problem. So as much as the bad start, 21-6 in the first half, 12-2 in the second half, as much as those were issues tonight, the fact that this team didn't play good basketball, didn't always play smart basketball to try to get back in this thing, was also a major reason why the Tar Heels did not win. And I'm going to go a little further into the three-point thing, because I think this is an important part of this team's game. They are not going to score a ton of conventional baskets in the paint. It's just not going to happen. They can get better, but I do not see a scenario where that is the intent. And as we're seeing the season unfold, the guards are becoming more dribble heavy. They're becoming more create for themselves heavy because they feel like they must have big games for this team to win. But you can do that and shoot threes. Because if you don't get a whole lot inside on both ends of the floor and you're losing some rebounding battles, two ways to compensate for that some. One, scoring in transition. They're doing that. Two, you got to hit some threes. You got to take them and you got to hit them. You got to take more than they took tonight. You got to hit more than they hit tonight. That's how you can do that. Elliot Cadeau, as an example, in the first three games, he attempted 10 three-pointers. In the last three games, Hawaii, Dayton, and Auburn, he's attempted 2. There was one sequence tonight where Ian Jackson should have swung the ball into the corner to Elliott for a 3. He didn't do it. And you could see Ian afterward kind of look over and sort of say, my bad. So they're not making that pass on the wing, on the perimeter that they made in the Dean Dome, that they made in Allen Fieldhouse. So they've gone away from that some. They've got to get that back. if they play like that moving forward, they're going to lose basketball games more than a lot of people expected a couple of weeks ago. The third thing is rebounding. It's wild, man. But when I talked to Hubert in Chapel Hill a week and a half ago, well, not even a week and a half ago, it was 8 days ago, 9 days ago, when they had a press conference before going to Hawaii, I'd asked him about rebounding trending in the right direction. And he said, absolutely, it's trending in the right direction. And the premise of the question was they out-rebounded Kansas on the road, 40-39. They out-rebounded that team on the road. That was a statement to me. When Hubert talks about it's not your size, how big you are, it's not the size of your length, it's this right here. It seems kind of trite, but it's real. And it showed up at Allen Fieldhouse. Then they double up American. I know American's not very good, but they still doubled them up, 46-23 on the glass. That's Carolina-like. But then they go to Hawaii and get out-rebounded by 13. They out-rebounded Dayton by 2, and then tonight they're out-rebounded by 6. So they're minus 17 on the islands on the glass. That's not Carolina-like. And that was a problem tonight. A lot of Auburn's early buckets were putbacks, and there was one very key sequence early in the second half when the Tar Heels kind of flexed and defended a little bit. An Auburn player got to the free throw line, hit the first free throw, missed the second. Auburn got the rebound, put up a shot, miss, got the rebound, put up a shot, miss, got a third offensive rebound, and it ended with a three-pointer, so it was a 4-point trip down the floor. Can't do that. It's going to happen sometimes, but when it happened tonight, it wasn't a one-off. It was, this is a problem. And you could trace it to some things, and I'm not going to single people out to beat on them, but these are examples, and it's important to note the examples. But Jalen Washington struggled tonight. In fact, the last 2 nights he struggled. I think Hubert was sending a message. 2 messages. One, dude, you got to get tougher. You got to get some of those balls. 2, I need to have someone else on the floor so we can win this game. And that's not where they need Jalen to be. They need Jalen, when February arrives, to be that dude that Hubert could count on for 27, 28 minutes a game. Someone that's going to get that ball. Someone that's going to rip it away from someone and not have it taken from him. Jalen's got it within him, and we have to remember how much time he's missed, and he hasn't been the guy for a while. So it's going to take some time. People need to have patience with him. However, since we're dissecting tonight's game, 17 minutes, 2 points, 2 rebounds is not going to cut it from your starting center. That's one of the reasons that Alan Lubin started the second half. And Jalen came in about 16 minutes left, went out with 7:51 left, never checked back in. Lubin had 10 points and 9 rebounds. One of the things that Lubin does is what Hubert's talking about. He does play with intensity, and he's a thicker, stronger body. When Lubin and Withers were on the floor, the Tar Heels boxed out pretty well. They were okay on the glass in a couple of stretches. Washington, I think Washington's going through the head thing a lot of guys go through when their roles have dramatically changed. And I think that was affecting him some because I've seen him box out a lot, and it wasn't happening 100% there tonight. One more game in Hawaii, then they come home. Who knows? We'll see how things evolve with him. But there's a lot of stuff on film for him right now to watch. And quite frankly, it's not just him. You know, Jalen Withers has a lot of flare-up games on the glass, and he's got a lot of games he doesn't do much on the glass. This was a nice game for Lubin, but maybe tomorrow night against Michigan State is not. And that's one of the issues. This team needs to find some consistency outside of the guards, and they're having trouble with that. And they're not getting some stuff that they thought they were going to get. Like, they're not getting it from Cade Tyson. Hubert didn't insert him into the game tonight until 10:13 left, and he played like a minute or two, and he was out. That was it. So if he's going to play 1 minute, was it 63 seconds at Kansas, plays 1 minute against Auburn, is he really going to be a factor? When he signed in May, they thought he was going to be a significant factor. Suddenly that's not there. When Hubert made the decisions he made with respect to the portal and bigs, and I understand, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about it. It's not like kids just chose other places and they went to Carolina and said, nah, we don't want to play for you. There were a lot of extenuating circumstances, and a lot of that initiated on the Carolina side. So when we're hearing in the offseason, they really think Jalen Washington can be this. They really think the combination of him and Withers can be this, Van Allen Lubin can be that, and they still might. But it hadn't really been that just yet. So you've got the bad starts, the really slow starts. You've got the guards over-dribbling, over creating for themselves, being too aggressive. And there were times tonight, and I tweeted out at one point, where if you remember during the Cole Anthony season, which the Tar Heels just struggled mightily, there were times where his frustration was so obvious on the court, and he had a lot of frustrated drives. Think about the game at Florida State as an example. I remember talking to him in the locker room after that game with another reporter. We talked to him for 5.5 minutes, and he never picked his head up. He was so frustrated, he never picked his head up. I saw frustration from this team tonight. I saw frustration from the guards. I saw them doing some of the Cole Anthony frustration stuff, and it didn't work out too well that year. Cole's a great player, but when you're frustrated and you're playing frustrated, you're not going to be a great player. You're going to miss a lot of stuff in the lane. You're going to fall down a lot. You're going to have shots blocked. You're going to have the ball taken from you. You're going to dribble it off your foot. All kinds of stuff's going to happen. Every once in a while, the ball goes in, but not enough. And then the other thing is this club's got to get better on the glass. Can they get better on the glass? I think they can. I think all three of these things can be fixed. Fixed enough. I think the first thing, got to be a mindset. The second thing, they got to play more under control and not be so swarm heavy with the backcourt where they almost ignore at times the other guys on the floor. That's what it appears at times. And that's what I see other people saying. They don't look as connected as they did 2 weeks ago. And the last thing is the glass. What are your thoughts? Which one of these three things concern you the most? Which one of these three things do you think is most fixable? Let us know what you think. If you're excited about the Tar Heels fixing these things, because there's a lot of other things going well, but they lost tonight, and I wanted to highlight these three things because they were major reasons why the Heels lost. Tomorrow night, they beat Michigan State. We'll talk positives probably. It's usually the way this stuff works. Let us know if you're excited about the fact that this team can fix this stuff and have a great season. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit the notification bell so you get updates every time we upload. And make sure you come on back tomorrow and check out all of our stuff, not just on the YouTube channel, but on our site, TarHeelIllustrated.com. We are rolling out content like there's no tomorrow with all the stuff going on around Carolina football and basketball. I'm AJ, and I'll see you tomorrow night.